What is up, Internet? It's your boy, Wolf Boy, coming at you with another format change. And today we're going to talk about Running From My Demons by Waste. Before I start talking about this album in actuality, I want to give a little introduction and sort of talk contextually, kind of, how I review albums, how I have reviewed albums. A great deal of my reviews in the past have been spent talking about what you might call the fundamentals, just pointing out mistakes, moments where people's flows are off tempo, or moments of the production that are badly mixed or out of key. And it makes sense that I would mostly talk about this, since most of the people I review are amateur musicians, and these are mistakes that amateur musicians tend to make. And I don't mean any shade by that, I'm an amateur musician myself, so. But after listening to this album, I was very pleasantly surprised to hear that this is probably the best recorded and one of the best mixed albums I have reviewed on this show. The first reason why this excites me is because I like things that sound good. But the second reason is I finally get to talk about some more interesting concepts and go a little bit more in-depth into what I look for in an album. So, without further ado, let's actually talk about this album. First of all, let me talk about the few technical issues that I did have with this album, mostly production-wise, because the recording of the vocals tended to be pretty good. Some elements in the beats came out sounding a little bit dry. The piano in Murder Murder, the bass synths in Charles Manson, and Rockstar Lifestyle, they both had kind of bland, dry bass synth sounds. Also, the song Wrong Way had some really loud, overpowering hi-hats that could have been mixed down a little bit or just made less dry. Speaking of the song Rockstar Lifestyle, I actually have a couple of problems with that. One being that the bass not only sounds very dry, but it's actually very loud in the mix, and I think it pushes down the rest of the beat due to the compression, so it leads to it sounding very low in the mix and very out of place with the rest of the song. Also, some element in the hook is out of key. I can't tell if it's the other synths that get added into the hook, or if it's the singing, but something in there just doesn't fit. On the subject of Waste singing, there's quite a lot of it on this album, and mostly it's pretty solid. There are a few moments where he's a little bit out of key, but nothing that a tiny bit of auto-tune couldn't fix. The vocals already have a fair amount of processing on them, a lot of layering and reverb, so if there was just a little bit of auto-tune, and also some de-essing on songs like Thinking Too Much, then the vocals would be perfect. Alright, with that out of the way, let's actually go in depth about what I took away after listening to this album. From what I can tell, Waste is an artist who wears his influences on his sleeve. You can listen to a track on this album and very clearly hear who he's thinking of or trying to do an impression of while he's recording the song. Charles Manson takes from Roz Dilliam's monotone delivery and sense of humor. The verse on I Don't Know a Lot kind of sounds like something a member of Suicide Boys or Bones would do. Thinking Too Much has a flow and beat that Tyler the Creator would be right at home using. And Reborn obviously takes from many of the shouty boys, such as XXXTentacion and 6ix9ine. Now, having musical influences is not a bad thing. It's impossible to not have them. It becomes a bad thing when you take influence from a single artist and don't inject any of your own personality or any other musical influences into that one influence. I think Waste is mostly able to inject his own personality into his influences, mostly through his lyrics, which definitely, this may sound like a bad thing, but he's very much sounds like a 16-year-old writing these lyrics. It sounds like the sort of things a teenager would write about, and in my opinion, it sometimes comes off a little bit cringy, but most of the time it's just added flavor, essentially. However, there is one song where, not just lyrically, but completely stylistically, he jumps the line from paying homage to straight up ripoff. And that song is I'm Not Alright. This song is such a blatant Joji ripoff. It's not even funny. It's kind of amazing how Waste perfectly mimics Joji's vocal style, including the multi-octave layering. He doesn't just copy Joji's style, but he actually straight up lifts several melodies from the song Yeah Right. If Joji himself released this song, I would accuse him of self-plagiarism for how similar this is to the song Yeah Right. Like I said, I think this is the only song that crosses that line from influence to plagiarism, but it definitely crosses that line and leaves a bad taste in my mouth for the rest of the album, which is a big chunk of the album because it's only the second song. Speaking of song order, I wanted to go a little bit in depth talking about album structuring in this video. I don't think I talk about album structuring very much in my reviews. Sometimes I'll bring up if an album has a weak opening or a weak closing track, but album structure is so much more than that. When you're deciding on the structure of your album and deciding which songs should come in what order, the songs should make sense in the context of each other. And also, I think that you should be able to understand which songs raise the energy and which lower it, and try to have some kind of overall curve as the album goes on. This album doesn't do that. It could have done that very easily, I think. But unfortunately, there's a few transitions that just give me whiplash for how major changes happen just from one song to the other. The album starts with Voices, which is a pretty good, tone setter for the album. It's kind of slow, it's melodic, and it sets you up for the dark tone. Then it transitions into I'm Not Alright, which is another kind of slow, kind of moody, melodic song. And at this point, you might be thinking, oh, well, is this gonna be all singing? Is there no rapping on this album? And then right after that, it hits you with Murder Murder, which has a completely different tone, a much faster flow, some really aggressive rapping. It just smacks you in the face and completely changes the tone that it seems like the album had been going for. Then after Murder Murder, you get some slow spots. The album gets a little bit more energy with Solly Interlude and Lofstar Reich Style. That's not what I meant. The album picks up a bit more energy with the Solly Interlude and Rockstar Lifestyle, and then the song Thinking Too Much wraps up the whole album nicely with its dreamy beat, catchy chorus, and basically just brings the album tonally to a close. Except that it's not the last track of the album. After Thinking Too Much, you have the song Reborn, where Waste is hitting you with these hyper-aggressive, screamed vocals and this dark, menacing beat, and after Thinking Too Much brought the energy down after the climax of the album, the energy just spikes way up, and then the album ends. And it just leaves you totally unsatisfied, like, what the hell was that? It really sucks because Reborn is easily my favorite track of the album. It's one of the best hooks, best beats, just most memorable performances. But its placement as the last song of the album makes no sense whatsoever. Maybe Reborn was meant to be sort of a bonus track at the end of the album, but it's not labeled as a bonus track, and it's not like it's particularly tonally different from the rest of the songs, so it doesn't make sense to me. All that had to be done was for this song to be somewhere in the middle of the album, and the structure of this album would have made so much more sense. As is, it's so weird to me. So yeah, that's basically my thoughts on this album. This is one of the best performed and best recorded albums I have listened to and reviewed for this show, but along with a few minor technical nitpicks, the structuring and the blatant copyright lawsuit that is the second track just leaves me thinking that this could have been so much better than it actually was. After the first listen and the first couple of tracks, I was prepared to say, oh, this is easily the best album I've reviewed. In its current state, I don't think I can give this better than a 4.5 out of 10. That being said, I can't stress this enough. Waste definitely is one of the best rappers I've reviewed on the show in terms of his performance and his just general quality. So please, check him out. I'll link all of his social media and his Spotify. Go listen to his stuff there, get him more streams. Support your boys. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, stay caffeinated. I'll see y'all later. Peace.
I'ma fuck up my life. I'ma fuck up my life. We gon' party all night.
Sing me a lullaby, one that tells my soul goodbye. I don't think I wanna die, I just want to escape.